Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first RVA live chats of 2022. The last one we did was in October last year. Can you believe it? It's a long time, and a lot seems to have changed. I think every time we speak, something new has happened. But we are finally kicking off the year, and seems like some positive news, some positive sentiment going around, which is great. So today, again, welcome to everybody. If you can, put your camera on. If you're in your PJs, it's fine. I think most of us do like to hide behind the camera, so that's fine. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some things that are quite important, I think, post-COVID or post-lockdown, as SABINE always corrects me. But we have unfortunately lost Kelly. She won't be able to join us, but we've got another speaker in her place, so not to worry. So before we kick off entirely, I wanted to do a poll. I wonder if we can still do that. Sadiq, are we able to do a quick poll? I don't think I can from my side.
Oh, I haven't actually done any polls.
No, that's okay. Not to worry.
Sorry
not to
about
worry.
that.
No, that's cool. Okay, so
we can ask the question and just get a thumbs up from people, maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. I can't see the whole room, but what I wanted to know from everybody is really kind of backs the theme of our live chat today, and that's how well we all kind of track key trends. I know I do enjoy a couple of trends, but from everybody that's in the room, for various reasons and different trends you might track, you might not track. Maybe give us a thumbs up on your Zoom screen if you like to track trends and you follow them very closely. If you can, give me a thumbs down if you don't like trends and you don't follow them at all. I think just interesting. I don't know. There should be a little emoji button down at the bottom somewhere where you can track them.
Or you can speak
Yeah, you
up
can.
and
Yeah.
Or you can speak
it on the side.
Sid, Juanita, Renee, Pumza, Jonathan, Craig.
Oh.
I need to speak up if I can. I haven't been in the tourism part of our industry for a while, and I've just stepped back in. So no, I don't track trends because I just haven't had the opportunity to, but it will be something that I would like to look at going forward, because the current climate has changed so dramatically. I think it's almost like a clean slate that we're starting on, a complete different way of doing business going forward, and the various focuses going forward. So currently, no, not tracking, but looking into doing that in future purely from a tourism point of view.
Thanks, Juanita. And Sid, I know you're based in the Waterberg. Thanks, Leanne. I know you're based in the Waterberg. Pumza and Juanita, where are you based and what attractions are you working with? Your mics.
Sorry, I muted myself. Hello there. I'm in my kitchen. I'm basically from the Butongo Rhino and Lion Nature Reserve. We are situated in Kromdraai. I basically fall under the Butongo Hospitality Group. We own Kromdraai is about 10 minutes out of Krugersdorp, Johannesburg.
Yes, I'm going to be there next week. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we basically also own the Lion and Safari Park as well as the Fat Olive Restaurant and the Stornoway and
I know that.
the River
Yes,
Cabin.
I know well. Cool.
Yes. So our other sales managers were supposed to log in as well, but I said whoever can join will join today. Otherwise, I'll just give them the feedback on how the meeting went.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so the Lion and Safari Park, is that there next to Narox Foundation?
Yes.
Cool, beautiful place. Okay.
Yeah, and we are opening our Wonder Caves on the 1st of April, which is great news. And also our Cradle Tourism is going up and running again, so everything will be back to normal at the soonest, I hope.
Okay, cool. I'm up there on the weekend of the 9th and 10th for my mother-in-law's 80th. So perhaps if I've got a moment, I'll come and have a look.
Yeah, that's you more than welcome. I'll basically host a quick educational if you've got time.
We'll see, yeah. Pumza, where are you based?
Well, I'm based in Cape Town, so at the moment I'm at the Two Oceans Aquarium Communications Office. And I also work with Renee. We are handling the tourism portfolio. Last year I was working with Ingrid, but this year I'm dealing it with Renee. So when it comes to following trend, your question, I'm also not following any at the moment. But like Renee was saying, it's on the books. I need to do that.
Okay, cool. Sid, I know well. Jonathan, I know well. Joe, Olivier, where are you based and what attraction are you with? He's having a glass of wine. Hi, Jonathan. Jonathan, you want to chat? You want to tell us? No, okay, cool. That's it then.
I think he's just on mute there. Okay, cool. So yeah, trends, amazing things. As you say, I mean, Phumza, I'm in your boat as well. I know I should be tracking trends. It's something I really should be focused on, but it's one of those things that I slide to the back door whenever I've got a full plate. So SABINE is going to do a small presentation for us today. But before I get to that, I think it's important just to talk a little bit more about what Avia has been doing in the background. You know, as a board, we've met a few times this year, really mapping out how we can, you know, really assist our member base and just the industry at large on how we transition from regular lockdowns to now a little bit more what hopefully can be a normal type of business. So lots going on. We'll talk about a few more things after the presentation, but you know, things like regional face-to-face chats, these more live chats, more kind of topics that are in vogue or up to date. So we really are trying to do a lot to back the industry. So stick with us and you know, listen to us a little bit more, and hopefully we can open a couple more dialogues and really solve some challenges. So SABINE, you were over in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, months ago almost.
Yeah, almost a month ago. I think I came back with COVID, I have to say, because I was tested negative to fly back on the Thursday, and then I tested positive for COVID on the following Wednesday, and I blame the flight.
Yeah, just more proof that it's not South Africa's fault. We haven't done anything wrong. Just more proof.
Brought it back.
Yeah, exactly. So trends, I mean, I'm always fascinated to see what the rest of the world is doing. And I think there's a lot of links between what the world's doing and what South Africa can be doing. And it's not to say we necessarily are following global trends. We like to create our own. But I think it's so important to get your feedback on what's going on over there, and what worked and what didn't work. You had a brilliant blog on our website, on Avia's website, that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I think you were going to give us a little bit more on that. Do you want to take us through your presentation, show us what's happening?
Okay, thank you. Great, thanks for the time. Now, let's see, there we go. Okay, so I attended the IAPA, the Institute of the International Association of Attractions and Amusement Parks. It's the Global Attractions Association. And this was the EMEA, the Europe, Middle East, and Africa. That's us guys, yay. Summit. Some of you may remember, I know the Two Oceans Aquarium was part of hosting it, that we had their global summit in South Africa in February of 2020, like 3-4 weeks before everything shut down. And so this was the first time I'd actually seen colleagues and friends since COVID. I flew to Dubai, hadn't been for many years, hadn't been to 2006. And they did an amazing opportunity to really, they hosted us amazingly. IAPA was amazing. And I specifically wanted to go because I thought the Dubai Expo, which is the size of Monaco, it's 600 football fields. I think they've had 20 million visitors in 3 months. Really countries, they've got pavilions from all hundreds of countries. Really was going to show off the best of what's available. And so this is really the trends that I picked up. The first thing is that, you know, get the basics right. I noticed, and it's cleanliness and service. Now, we have staff in South Africa. What was really interesting to me is when I talked to my fellow attraction managers in Europe, every single time, including the most recent Government Relations Committee meeting, it seems amazing to us because today it was announced that our unemployment rate, the expanded definition, is 49.5%. I mean, it's unbelievable. In Europe and in Dubai, they are actually struggling to find staff. So they've said they aren't able to open all their restaurants. They're not able to open all their parks. However, I have to say, you cannot believe how clean Dubai is. I did not see a cigarette butt, nothing anywhere. Manicured, a little bit over manicured in my opinion. I mean, I prefer natural sites, but anyway, beautiful, clean. And also what was interesting, which really surprised me because staff is expensive, is how many front of house staff they had everywhere. Literally all over the place, not just at the expo, but at all the museums I visited, and how informed these staff were, how well trained, how informed across a multicultural space. So that really impressed me. And I was really saddened when I landed in Cape Town and saw this. This is at Cape Town Airport. I mean, the wind wasn't blowing on that day. If it was, it would have been all over the place. It's looking, you know, as an arrival was really shocking. And equally in the queue on arrival, I was really upset. I actually stepped in. I was that upset. There was an airport person. I don't know if it was an AXA person, I think, checking that we all had our COVID certificates. And she repeatedly asked this older woman who had hearing aids, so couldn't hear her, and was in English. And the woman didn't understand what she was asking for. And this went on for about 3 minutes. And eventually the South African front of house person said, I told you I want your COVID test and it should be ready and whatever. It really was quite rude. And I kind of stepped in and I said, look, this is not how we greet people in this country. And it really upset me after what I'd seen in Dubai. The other thing in Dubai is it is selfie flippin', I don't know what, selfie everywhere. Every site has about 10 opportunities. And look, leveraging selfie power, we see the world and we travel the world no longer through a camera and no longer through our phone, but with our phone shown back at us, if you know what I mean. What strikes me about these images is they actually don't know where they are. Okay, so they don't really serve a purpose for the attraction. So on the left-hand side, that's me in front of the big heart. That's actually at the Dubai Expo, but equally the next heart picture is actually inside a shopping mall. Now, what purpose does this serve if you haven't branded yourself in some way? And then the last one is me in front of an artwork in the center of Dubai. But the reality is that selfies are just, if I move my visuals of people watching me around, do you see that? No, hey? You don't see me moving this around? No, good, okay. So I'm trying to put it somewhere where I can.
Oh yeah, we can see your mouse. Well, I can
Just
see your mouse.
Yeah.
No, mouse is fine as long as you're not seeing me move. So leveraging selfie power, I think, really is important. And basically, I would say every attraction has to have one selfie site, a really iconic something that you can use, that brands where you are. People will take pictures. They love taking pictures. In fact, in Dubai, you literally had to walk around people, trip over people. It was the opposite. It was completely over the top and actually irritated me. But the point is, that's what your clients want. And it's social media. And if you're not offering at least one, what you have decided is the iconic selfie pic of your site, and people really need to be told what it is, then I think you're missing a beat. This was a clever one. It was just a big image on the wall, and you could see it says take a selfie in Cuba. It was in the Cuba pavilion, and that's me taking a selfie in the Cuba pavilion. So, you know, can you imagine doing that for the Boer Kaap or for your site? So as I say, you have to use it wisely. You must have something unique. If I see another yellow frame in South Africa, I'm going to go crazy. It's no longer unique. It was always intended just for Table Mountain, and I think we're missing something if we put them everywhere. It must identify your site, and don't litter with selfies. So don't have them all over the place. There's no point for that. Use them wisely, really.
Sorry, Sabina?
Yes.
Sorry, before you carry on, I just wanted to ask this selfie element. I mean, I'm a sort of a generation maybe behind the selfies. I don't really get them. But yeah. I whenever we talk selfies, you know, being a photo company, we talk a lot about images and selfies, and I cringe because I can't take a selfie of myself. I'm terrible. I get the feeling and I stand to be corrected here, but in South Africa, we don't leverage that enough. I don't know if we are like, obviously there's great, on top of Table Mountain, it's pretty straightforward, but, if I think of a Shaka Marine World, they might get a bit angry with me, but I don't know, there's no great selfie spots, and it's such an iconic attraction in Durban. How do we try to change our mindset? How do we, as attraction leaders, what do we do? Do we get the whole team together? Do we just go off on a whim and do these things? What's your advice?
Yeah, so I think you need something simple, something that identifies you. And if it's not there, then build something and brand it. I think what you can do is go onto your Instagram pages and have a look at what people are naturally selecting as a selfie site. And Johnny, the other thing in South Africa is, I think, the one thing about selfies, it's one thing to share, but we actually also want something to put up on our fridge when we get back. And I don't know about you, I was going through my camera when I was preparing this. I've got 9,000 photos on my cell phone, of which I've printed 5, on my fridge. And so there is an opportunity, and I actually didn't mean to jump in here with Happy Snappy, but I think that's the role that Happy Snappy plays, is that as you walk out, you actually can print the 2 or 3 perfectly framed selfie opportunities or photo opportunities of yourself on site. I know, aren't you also at Oceans Aquarium?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know how well it's going there, but again, for me, there are 2 aspects for this. One is the social media. The other one is the printed thing that you can put at home on your fridge or on a frame, because we must print 0.0001% of our photos.
Sorry, someone.
Yeah, jump in. This is a conversation.
Sorry, it's me. We also have in the aquarium, we have 2 options where you can have, obviously in the aquarium, we have many options for beautiful selfies, but then we also have our surfboard that's on those springs. That's very popular, and we have the turtle shell where people can crawl into the turtle shell. But I hear you about the branding. Neither of those really carry our branding, but it is something that we can look at as an option. Interestingly enough, selfies in the aquarium are very often taken in front of our printed walls, not our live walls. The walls with the graphics on. It's quite an interesting concept. I've never quite understood that, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I mean, I've just, as part of my research, I think, does it come up backwards? It's this book called The World in a Selfie. And it's really around this new phenomena and how I'm busy reading it. It's got highlights of notes that I've made, but we are seeing the world differently. From a technological point of view, we're seeing it through our cameras, So, leveraging selfie power. Next,
if I can share something, Sabine.
Yes.
Because,
hi, Nico.
Hi, I'm Nico from Mayap. I live in Belgium. But in the Netherlands, we now have a new chain of museums, which are called museums, and it's basically all kinds of backdrops where people can take selfies. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat, so it might be inspirational for you guys to check what kinds of backdrops they use and what is interesting for to maybe build in your attractions.
Okay, very interesting. And yes, there is a new museum model which drives the museum people crazy. The sort of proper ones, as they call themselves. The Museum of Ice Cream. What's the other one that started in America? Is it called Meow Wolf Museum, which is really around taking selfies, actually, but are incredibly popular. I've just been asked to type in the name of the book here. I'm doing a lot of things at once. The World, but this is what a live chat is about in a selfie. Right. Not available in this country. Maybe what I need to do is start doing some book reviews and putting it on our site, because I read them anyway. Okay, next one is, are robots taking over? And this was quite an interesting question because, of course, with the shortage of staff, you might think that robots are taking over. So that's me with, I don't know, I can't remember, this robot was given a name, and in fact was the most selfie taken spot image at Expo Dubai. And this little robot, you can ask it questions, it answers things for you. But to be honest, I thought it was more gimmicky than helpful. If you look on the right, there's a picture there. The first one is, it's a mobile robot stand that drives around delivering pamphlets. I think the next one is a COVID-19 robot that drives around, takes facial recognition checks if you're wearing your mask, and also automatically checks your temperature, and will say out loud, because I took my mask off to check if it worked, put your mask back on, and also checks that you were a meter apart, which I thought was very clever. The third robot is a delivery thing, so someone can deliver something from A to B and put in that robot, key in the GPS, and it delivers your whatever, somebody's lost handbag or something. And the one on the far right, I can't remember what that was. But really, overall, they're quite expensive, they're gimmicky, and ultimately, people were crowding around the robot stand with info pamphlets and talking to the information officer, as you saw in my very first point here. There you go. That still had more people in it than anybody else. So service and cleanliness matters more than robots, I think. What role does tech play? Now, this was actually a little video from my phone that hasn't uploaded as a video. The tech at Dubai Expo was unbelievable. And in this particular pavilion, it was the mobility pavilion. I would guess that in its central core, which had sounds, light, music, massive. Nico, have you been to Expo there? No. Yeah.
Yes, but not with IAP, on my own.
Yeah, I know. I didn't see you there with IAP. So the amount of tech was just incredible. I would say it's the equivalent of all tech in South Africa put together and then times by 100. Okay. It was completely overwhelming. People actually just moved past. They walked past. I mean, look, part of the experience, it was a walkthrough with a lot of tech, but it meant that someone was in front of you. If you wanted to stop and read, you actually couldn't stop and read. And really, I just found it okay, look, I'm 53. I found it an overwhelming sight and sound, and I'm not sure people really got it. In fact, I would say this was more the experience. In that same pavilion, can you see there's a kid in a pram, and he's looking at his cell phone and watching a movie on his cell phone through this tech pavilion that honestly had $100 million worth of tech. So a massive fail, in my opinion. So again, I would say use tech really wisely. And what was interesting, IAPA also took us to Atlantis Water Park. And what was very noticeable is, by definition, in a water park, your phone isn't on you all the time because you're going down water slides. You can buy a waterproof pouch, which I'm sure they do great sales in. But it was very noticeable how people weren't on their phones. Families were connecting. You were sliding down slides in sort of groups in your family group of 4. It was the highest, longest, whatever water slide that had just been built. Massive water tower, and I went down all the rides with the designer who'd actually designed the slides, which was a lot of fun. I'd actually never done a water slide before. Loads of fun, and you standing and talking to people in the queue. You being weighed because the 4 of you can't be more than 320 kilos, and you're laughing because a big person has to get off and a little kid has to get on. Then you're holding on and saying, I'm scared. So it is so much social connection and interaction. And of course, at the end, you're watching people come off. So it was really striking to me that the value of a water park may be the fact that you don't have your cell phone on you and that you're forced to connect with friends and family. It was so noticeable.
And so Sabine, sorry, just before you move on to the next slide, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I feel like doing a bit of research into trends now and really trying to get my head around it. Everything screams at you that technology, and you've got to have loads of technology, and this is the next trend, and you've got to have this app, you've got to have that. But cost involved, and as you rightly pointed out, you can have $100 million in a room, and a kid's going to pull out a cell phone to play a little game on. Like in a South African context, how much does, and maybe this question is quite broad, but how much does it really play, and how realistic is it for us, the aquariums, the sharkers of the world, to really inject technology?
I think, yeah, it's difficult. I mean, first of all, unless it's done properly, there's no point, because tech in people's homes is probably more tech than you can afford on your site. Secondly, you're often paying in US dollars. And thirdly, with load shedding, the tech's going to be off when we are busy being load shed. So there's a lot of problems. Having said that, of course, it's got a role to play. And I would say you need to use it really wisely. And for some reason, I deleted my picture, but the best use of tech I saw was in the sustainability pavilion, where you walked in and they used it to ask questions, and really clever questions, which made you stop and think. And then you could press a button at the end when you left. You could see how people had voted. So again, I'm so sorry that I lost my picture that I'd taken, but the one question that I remember was, would you rather be the person who killed the last panda on Earth and no one knows about it? Or would you rather be the person who everyone thinks killed the last panda on Earth? But you didn't. Okay. And so all the way through, they asked these very dilemma questions around sustainability. And so you could vote, and relatively simple tech, beautiful big screens with great images. I really must try and find that pic because the questions were so clever. And for me, what was interesting is how it stopped and made you think. And then at the end, there was a big scoreboard of the 20 questions and how people had voted over the last 3 months. So I thought that was a very clever use of tech. So look, we can't escape tech and we shouldn't. And I have seen tech used very, very cleverly here. Usually relative, I say technology, but it's
clever rather than money. I get, in South Africa, we just got to be smarter rather than trying to.
Clever rather than money, yeah.
And sorry, Sid, you've got a question, I believe. Is that right? Yes. Unless it's a high five.
Hi. Sabine is actually coming up to the Waterberg next week, which is great. We're very pleased to have her. And she's going to be talking on the advice she can give from the report. But we are also featuring a solar system with Dr. Phil Calcott. We have got the most beautiful dark skies, open spaces. And we're going to be hosting this at the Waterberg Living Museum. And the idea is going to be a scale model of the solar system with big replicas on the side over a distance between Faalwater and towards Malkrafeer. And one of the crowds we've tied up with, funnily enough, is Forge Academy. And these are guys that don't ask me how, don't ask me why, but they teach things in the next horizon. You probably saw it in Dubai, Sabine, but it's artificial reality, virtual reality, all sorts of things like that. So what they're doing is they're taking, instead of just a billboard on the sign, this is the Saturn, this is whatever the case is, we're going to have a virtual reality element to it, all right? Yeah. And it's not that, well, we're waiting for the price, but we don't think it's going to be that prohibitive. So instead of just seeing something, and there are a couple of very amateur tourist attractions like these in Australia and America, but we're going to actually have a full scale of the solar system on each thing, and it'll be like a billboard on the side of each road. And to me, you'll be able to get very good feedback from Sabine next week as to how this technology is working and whether it can, because I hear you very clearly, we can't afford massively expensive things, but these things aren't that expensive, and it brings the reality of the solar system down to something you can feel and touch. Are you with me? So yeah. It is a good idea to look at that. All right.
Thank you, Sid. Yeah, and look, I agree. I'm not saying no tech, obviously not, and the world's moving that way, and VR and all the versions of it definitely have a place. I'm saying we mustn't be fooled that just throwing more money at it is going to make a better experience, and to use it very wisely and to use it to enhance your site and enhance the experience to slow the visitor down. So there's absolutely a place for it. But we always think, oh, we can never do what Dubai does. You don't need to, is my opinion. As I've pointed out here, that didn't actually even work. Okay, Johnny? Can I move on? So the next
sorry, carry on.
Okay, so the next thing, and you know what, Nico, seeing as you've been there and you were there on a personal trip, it'll be interesting to get some of your feedback at the end, whether you agree or disagree with some of the things that I experienced. But what was interesting to me is, I mean, Dubai is big, it's busy, it's got so much to offer. It was really overwhelming. And of course, I was rushed for time. And so the sites that I remember the most and that I had what felt like the best experience were the sites that really paced my journey for me. So the one on the left was actually I think it was the Dubai Pavilion. It only had 6 rooms. And each room you were in for 3 or 4 minutes with sort of sound and light show, not the most tech of any of the things there, but sort of medium tech, still cost a lot of money. But it was really noticeable to me. You went in as 20 people at a time. You had a story in room 1 of 3 to 4 to 5 minutes. You then had a sort of walkthrough experience to the next room, 3 to 4, 5 minutes. And so they paced your journey for you, and the whole thing in total was half an hour. And equally, the second picture is in the Australia Pavilion, where again, this was sort of a holding place where they had an interaction of some sort, and then the doors opened and you walked through another place where you all sat down on an amphitheater type of space, and then then it had another presentation, 10 to 15 minutes of sort of the Australian outback. And so what struck me is when people were left to their own devices, they walked too fast and they walked past things, like in this image, where really, and it's a pity you can't see the video, they were walking at a walking pace and I don't believe could participate. And so it really is an attraction manager's job to help pace your visitor journey, because visitors don't know how to get the best experience out of your site. They don't know your site, you know. So putting benches in the right place, putting ways of slowing people down in the right place, places for people to gather, making sure your coffee stop is appropriately placed in the right part of your attraction, etc. So what was really striking here is that when the visitor journey was paced, I bet if I'd done that first one and it wasn't these sort of holding rooms, for want of a better word, I bet the dustbin people have just arrived. Oh, my dog's not going to bark. That's interesting. My Ridgeback usually goes crazy. I bet people would have walked through in 5 minutes. Instead, we were forced to sit and listen for 3 to 4 minutes. Now in each room. Now you can do that, of course, with a person telling a story. But basically, you're trying to put speed bumps in the way of slowing people down to get a better experience. And on the same issue is really to factor in wellness. The picture on the left is one of the floors in the new Museum of the Future in Dubai, which opened the day we got there. And the one on the right is something that I've always wanted to see. It's this Van Gogh immersive experience. It's actually a large space in a shopping center. I'm assuming it's unsold space that retail hasn't taken up yet. It was surprisingly, I thought there'd be more people in it, but it wasn't an art experience, although they sell it as an art experience, as art-attainment. But it was a very meditative experience. And I really noticed people were lying on the floor, they were lying on the benches. Because again, you could walk around in 5 minutes, but most people seem to say 20 minutes. And they almost took it as a time out of their day. Because the shopping centers are so busy, etc. And the wellness experience on the left in the Museum of the Future, it was also quite interesting. They were saying their topic on this floor was that in the future we will be even more decoupled from our natural senses: taste, sound, smell. What's the other one? Touch. And so each of these rooms were designed for you to re-engage with these senses. And I thought it was very clever. And again, people slowed right down. Now, you don't have to get this involved with slowing down, but again, a bench where the viewpoint is. There's a beautiful tree, and maybe you've got some seats under the tree to let people slow down. And you'll see later, one of the big trends is our health and wellness generally, and all of us have got sites to factor it in, and maybe thinking points in messaging to say, you know, how does the swaying of the Cape Kelp forest make you feel when you sit here? Or recommended meditation time, 5 minutes, or headphones where you've got sort of relaxing music playing while you watch the kelp forest sway, or the bushveld. I mean, I always know when I exit the Marapeng Museum, my favorite position is you exit that museum and you look over that Transvaal bushveld, and it's like, I'm out of this experience now, and I can just sort of chill for 10 minutes. So they don't have benches there. And I would always sit on that bench if it was there. So factor in health and wellness, especially if you've got a longer on-site experience, anything more than an hour, people need to rest. Okay, move on.
100%, yeah.
Then what was very interesting is I went to a specific talk on trends in food. And really, we've spoken about this many times at Avia. It's food has become locations-based socialization. So we leave home, and particularly the younger generation, under 40, they leave home to eat with friends and to drink with friends. And this little ad that I saw in the largest Ferris wheel in the world, of course, Dubai has the largest of everything. It's like our wheel in Cape Town. They are advertising it as a social experience, not a viewpoint experience. Drinking, mixing socially, and shared photo taking. Okay, they do not sell it as a viewpoint experience. I found that very interesting. So essentially, socializing around food and drink is an integral part of our day out. People are looking for authentic food experiences, not always the same thing. And then I went to a great talk around food trends. And this was an example of, I didn't eat it, unfortunately. I'm assuming it's a deep fried crab, but look how beautifully presented it is, so visual. And really around food, you need to monitor trend lines, long-term trends, not food crazes. It was interesting to me because certainly that's what we experience here when I have been working with attractions, that visitors ask for healthy food and will complain there isn't enough healthy food, but they don't actually order it. Your best sellers are still always your burgers and your chips and maybe your deep fried crab. What seems to work is comfort foods in a healthy format. They are the best sellers in the healthy category. So vegan burgers or, I don't know, whatever, beetroot chips. So it's the unhealthy food in a healthy format is the best sellers in the healthy food category. Mixology is a new thing. So all these new mixing drinks, cocktails, mocktails. So the sober curious is a huge issue, is a huge trend where people are drinking less alcohol and perhaps not wanting to drink in the day because you've got to drive somewhere, you want to enjoy your site, and perhaps don't have the money to pay for expensive alcoholic drinks. So include the sober curious. Of course, in South Africa, as in Dubai, a lot of halal people. And so particularly if you're aiming for a younger crowd, involving mixology in some of your food offering would be useful, I think. Perhaps creating a cocktail that's just for you. And then it was interesting to me, the person that led our food trend conversation, was interesting to me how much they researched the demographics of who's eating at their site, and they matched the food and beverage offering to those demographics. And as the demographics change Monday to Friday versus the weekends, they actually changed their food offering and saw a huge uptick in sales. Again, visual Instagrammable food. This was at the Atlantis water park. I mean, on the left, those are just ginger biscuits in the shape of your attraction, whatever's relevant. The little, I don't know what they were. I didn't eat any of this because I'm trying to be carb free. I don't know what they were. The donuts on the bottom, and you can see how simple is that. I mean, that's a little Poseidon pitchfork with icing over, easy peasy to do. And the top is also easy. It's a fork that's been burnt, branding it with something. So these things are not difficult to do. And again, I would say find one thing that's unique to you, a pancake in the shape of a Mickey Mouse ears if you're in Disney World, etc. Because we all know the second most Instagram thing after a selfie is what you ate. So yeah, that's trend in food.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to be rude again and interrupt. I don't want to delay you too much more, but just a quick question. I know in South Africa, a lot of the bigger attractions and a lot of the other ones as well, we've got kind of third-party suppliers, guys that are maybe in-house or just outside the attraction that are handling all the food and bev. Can we go to these guys and say, listen, we want a couple of things on sale that are more brand appropriate, or do you think they've already left the attraction? It's not worth it. Is it worth engaging with these guys?
No, that's a good point. I think it is worth engaging because both them would want to make more sales, and you want to extend the footprint of your attraction. I mean, if your attraction can lay its footprint, 10, 20 meters outside of your front door, you'd be very happy. And equally, anybody selling something would be, popcorn with blue sprinkles on top to represent the ocean, whatever. And also naming it, of course, always naming it something appropriate to the attraction always gives the lens that, oh, this is a site-specific food item. It's certainly worth a conversation, because food and beverage outlets want to make money. The more they sell, the happier they are. And in fact, I often think attractions, if they've outsourced their food, they're a little bit too hands-off. They need to be much more involved with how integral the food is as part of the experience, both in terms of quality, price, and in terms of branding.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. I think it's always nice, you sort of leave an experience. The experience doesn't need to stop there. If you're moving on to a restaurant nearby.
So, if it's if it's candy floss, it's usually pink. I'm using the aquarium because I've got 2 aquarium people on here. If it's make it blue candy floss and call it the mermaid's breath, suddenly you've got a branded food item. Trends in food. So the person who hosted us actually hosted the first African food pavilion at the Dubai Expo. He claimed very strongly that African food is the next trend. I had a little bit of an issue with it, because what is African food? There's actually 54 different countries, and there's everything from Mopani words to, Moroccan food, Egyptian. As a continent, I'm not sure it is African. It's food from the African continent rather than African food. But he did make a point that people are looking for new trends. We've done Chilean, we've done Patagonian, we've done Argentinian. Asia has had its place in the sun for the last 20 years. And so people are looking for new food trends. And we have 54 different countries in Africa, and certainly in South Africa, we've got local food that's to your locality. There's a rising number of Michelin-starred food chefs from Africa. There's actually Chef Wandile Sihlobo from Joburg, who is a Michelin-starred chef and doing phenomenally well. People are looking for modern Africa, not the Lion King. And so what they did is present African food in a familiar way, dare I say a European way. And they also, whilst on the one hand, they said food needs to be authentic, on the other hand, what I saw mushed together was sort of a Moroccan flavoring on a Mozambican prawn, which, whatever, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you can explain this is Moroccan flavoring on Mozambican prawn. The point is, it was really popular. They were doing really, really well. It was the first time it had ever taken place in Dubai, and people were sort of blown away by the new food tastes and the new, sampan beans with a chop presented in an interesting way. Again, and remember, comfort food or fun food when we go out is often geared towards European tastes, like a hamburger, whereas chakalaka, sampan beans is something that a large portion of our domestic market would really enjoy. And maybe you've picked it up a bit, you've branded it, and you've presented it in a different way. My pet discussion in South Africa is that we sort of claim we have a national dish, but no one can really say what it is. And if you push hard enough, you've got National Braai Day and you've got a braai. But where on earth can you actually have an authentic braai as a tourist? Nowhere. I really can't think of anywhere. There is the fish guys, sort of strandloper guys on the West Coast. Most of the time, if you're told that you're having a braai, it's pre-braaied and then put on your plate. But the whole thing of standing around a fire, arguing with the chef about how long the steak has to be on the fire, choosing your meat. I mean, what I saw in Argentina was such a wide range. And I forget the name that they've got for their braai, but if anyone can think of it, shout it out. But, really amazing fire, let's call them fire kitchens, where the fire is central to the restaurant. You can choose your meat, you can choose your vegetables. And it was a very, very authentic gaucho Argentinian food experience. And it just amazes me that we don't have that here. The closest we got in Cape Town was Mzoli's in Khayelitsha, which did so well because it was authentic and fantastic. But I don't know, speak up if any of you offer it, but I don't see it. Am I wrong, guys?
No, I think you're spot on. Definitely
Even many of the game lodges, they will end up putting poikies out there. And again, a poikie is actually about watching it bubble. They will end up having the pre-bride meat out there. You don't actually are part of that whole bride experience, you know. So that's kind of a pet issue of mine. What I also found interesting is that large structures are an attraction. So this was one of my favorite things. I'm sure you've seen all the Instagram pics. It was a huge installation in the Dubai Expo. I'm sure, Nico, you saw this, where this water came over and then never actually spilled over onto the floor, and you could stand in this waterfall that was timed to music and lights. And
it was my favorite thing of the whole Dubai Expo, to be honest.
On the one hand, must have been super technology to get this built and super expensive. On the other hand, so simple, wasn't it?
It was beautiful, and people loved it because it was hot weather. And I don't know if you've seen it in the night, but they completely, with projection.
So I think people went back more than once. I went back in the day and the night. Again, you spent 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes there, because it was also restful. It was a wellness experience. Lots of selfie, lots of fun, lots of laughter, holding hands, kids playing in the water. It was really amazing. And then on the right is me standing on the inside of the inner circle of the Museum of the Future. It was very clever because Dubai, of course, is rectangular buildings, and the Museum of the Future is sort of a round eye. So just on the skyline, it looks very different. But observation decks, anything with height, and observation decks don't have to be super expensive. Anything with height, anything that is a viewpoint, and even a flat viewpoint, you can frame, please not with a yellow table mountain frame, but you can frame it with a wooden frame or with a huge pedestal that people have to climb up on and sit at. So for me, there's really something around the interaction of nature, wellness, slowing people down, selfie sites, framing nature. There's some very clever ideas out there, and they're not super expensive, but they themselves are an attraction and a way of getting people to stop. Of course, can you believe it? Dubai has the largest yellow frame in the world. When I saw this, I had to go. It's 54 stories high. Did you go to this, Nico?
No, not for me.
Yeah, it was quite scary. And at the top, the very top frame has actually got a bit that's see-through. I mean, I couldn't walk across it. My suspicion in Dubai is that whatever is the newest, highest thing gets all the business, because this was a third of the price of the other observation deck type of experiences, and a third is busy. And I think 5 years ago it was like super busy and super expensive. So there's a cannibalization. If you call yourself, if you rely on yourself being the tallest, highest, longest anything, there's a cannibalization effect as soon as someone beats you with that little nomenclature. So your experience always has to be its own thing. And of course, the other interesting thing is that you can never actually get that photo on the right that's taken with a drone or an aeroplane. You never actually see that. What you see is me on the left. So there's something around an observation deck that has to be to a human scale for it to be useful to the experience. On the far right, that's a great picture of Dubai. Anyway, of course, I had to go see that because of our yellow frames. Right. So that's sort of the Dubai bit. Do we want to take a pause and we've got 10 more minutes, or should I just continue?
Happy for you to carry on if you're happy to.
All right. So pandemic, my feeling and all the research I've done and trends I've been tracking for the last 8 years is really that the pandemic has accelerated trends that were in existence already. It hasn't brought out many new trends. It's accelerated ones that were existing. And hence tracking trends is so important, because if you'd been responding to these existing trends, you'd be ahead of the game now that they've all been accelerated. So the first one, as I've mentioned before, is health and wellness. Post-pandemic, we know that outdoors is really popular. We know that, again, when I was talking to the IAPA, the Global Attractions Association, the attractions in Scandinavia were saying that the guys in smaller cities and outside of the city center are doing far better than the ones in Copenhagen, in Helsinki. They're not super reliant on international tourists. It's their own visitors that are saying we rather want to go outdoors. And I know when I saw the latest report for outdoor camping and caravan park report from America, they have seen a 40% uptake in camping and caravanning, of which something like 60% are people that have never camped before, and also a new demographic. And certainly I've noticed that in South Africa, which is fantastic. I mean, how long have we been working on trying to get a younger, more diverse demographic to all our sites? And it's happened for us, and we need to leverage that and keep them in and sort of infuse them about the things we have to offer. Mental health has been accelerated. I spoke about anxiety and mental health issues 5 years ago again. Already loneliness is a big issue. And of course, this has only been accelerated during the pandemic. So you've got this weird dichotomy of some people who want to go out and socialize and other people who are extremely nervous about going out and socializing. They really are opposite ends of the continuum. The reality is when we leave home, we actually want to have fun. And in a report by the American, I can't remember where it was now actually, they said that the top emotional drivers for leaving home are really a place where we can all have fun together, a unique experience that is out of the ordinary, so something that I can't do at home, and something that's entertaining to both adults and children. So I think that's certainly why people go to attractions. The next thing is really we leave home to have connections. So we do have connections at home, particularly, people are on their Xboxes, they are playing virtual games, they're on social media, they're talking to everybody, having conversations, but we also leave home to have in-person connections. So to allow spaces for that to happen, locations-based socialization, whether it's a food truck, whether it's an amphitheater where you can sit and rest together and chat, picnic spots, so not always around food, but it's really places to connect. And people are looking for a multi-generational family day out. Yeah.
Can I just come in here quick?
Yeah. Hi, Joe.
Joe, sorry, you're on mute there, I think.
I'm from the city of Cape Town.
Hi.
And I've done quite a bit of work on our coastline specifically and our caravan parks and what we call resorts. It's got chalets, self-catering chalets and caravan sites. I just want to ask you about your, you said is it in America that there's a 40% uptake of caravan parks?
Increased uptake on top of, yeah.
Okay, increased. I also and you said, I think 60% of them are like new people.
What?
I'm quite interested in that information. Is it possible that you can possibly send me the information or that I can get?
Yes, sure. I think if you can just put your email address in the chat, and then for Sidika, I can't do everything at once. Just save that email address, and I will send you the report. Joe, are you with like the City of Cape Town Municipal, like Slangkop out there, those kind of campsites?
No, Slangkop is, yeah, Soetwater actually.
Soetwater, that's what I mean, yeah. Is that what you mean? That's the area you work in?
Yeah, look, we've got about 17 resorts, and some of them, I mean, I've listened with interest to the whole debate about Dubai and, all the artificial things you can visit and, all the artificial things you can do. But and I'm just talking about Cape Town, obviously, but I think a lot of it is valid for the country, is that we sit with these fantastic nature areas, and even right in the middle of Cape Town that people don't know about. Even people who live in Cape Town don't know about them. To me, it's a massive opportunity.
Absolutely.
And technology in that sense, if one interprets it in that sense, is then more about information and how to get people there and how to guide them there, rather, because once they're there, you don't need anything else.
Well, you're back in that space of that water park where people are putting their cell phones away and connecting with each other, which is hugely valuable. But surely you must have seen a huge uptick. I mean, the use of tidal pools in the last 2 years. I hiked around Lion's Head this morning, And I mean, there was a demographic and number of visitors on a misty day, no views, that was not the case 2 years ago. So definitely we've seen an uptick, and it's reported worldwide, the same uptick. So definitely we need to leverage on that before we lose these new customers.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can also follow me on my Twitter handle @CityBowl_Kid, where I usually post, and on my LinkedIn profile, where I usually post a lot of the reports that I find. The experience economy. So this is something you've also heard me talk many times. It's really the fact that we're investing in experiences and not things, and that people are prepared to pay for a range of experiences, and they're prepared to pay within an experience to have like a fast track queue or a VIP. So the mistake that a lot of attractions make is that they only offer sort of one price point. And in fact, there are many price points. And so, for example, most attractions charge the same price for a Monday, a quiet Monday, as they do for a busy Sunday. And smart pricing, which is what I'll be talking at Africa Travel Market, is certainly a way to smooth your demand curve and to offer the experience to different people at different price points without doing dual pricing. Domestic recovery, domestic tourism is, of course, the backbone, should always have been the backbone of our tourism industry, hasn't been in the Western Cape. From my understanding, talking to a lot of attractions outside of Cape Town, outside of the Western Cape, they've done incredibly well. They've had better years than 2019 because they've reached the domestic market, which is fantastic to see, really great. Outdoors, fluid identities, you know, we are not only one thing. So I might be someone that normally only spends my time at home on Xbox, but I also do go out and then I want a very different experience. Or I might be someone who's scared of the outdoors and doesn't know how to swim, but that doesn't mean that I won't go to a tidal pool and figure out how to enjoy myself there. So we are fluid identities, and this thing of putting generations or income ranged people only into one box no longer really works, because the next point, personalization and individualization, is a huge trend. If you can leave with your own personal photo of your own experience, like Happy Snappy does, or if you can, I don't know, get a personalized trinket with your name on it, that's hugely profitable for the attraction and popular. So luxury has been redefined by access, and so I don't mean VIP here as in smart. I mean access to aspects of your site that people don't normally have access to, so like behind the scenes, or the best sunset view ever. And I know the Cape offers a sunset ticket, which has become really popular. It never was. Sunset was never a popular time of day. There's definitely the issue around longer stay means longer play, longer stay in country. So tourists who are coming are staying for longer. We're running out of time here, but it also involves longer play. And longer play on your site means increased dwell time, which means increased spend. I mean, if people spend 4 hours on your site, they will have a meal, and they probably will buy something from your retail to remember the site by. If they spend an hour, they're going to go walk out and have coffee somewhere else. And then the Netflix effect, I've written an article on my site, on my Curiositas website. You can go and have a look there. I won't talk about that now. Tech as facilitator, to your point, Joe, so support the fun, don't spoil the fun. Certainly touchless things that have become no touch, I think, will remain so. So quick QR codes for information, cashless payments, keeping your touch for and connection for the important moments. And because they are there and people do want it, but reserving it for those moments only. The one thing for sure is that people are demanding instant and seamless access to your site, whether that's how they buy tickets, how they find information. We have become, bizarrely enough, we've all slowed down in COVID, but we haven't had a queue for a single thing. We've had things delivered, and we've had instant access to things, and people have become less tolerant of a queue than ever, not only because of the fear of COVID, which may be passing as we've all gotten tired of the conversation, even though it's very much still here. It's not a post-COVID society, and I don't think ever will be. It's a post-lockdown society. But we have become much more impatient around any sort of queue. Our phone is always in our hands, except when you're at a water park or at a tidal pool, Joe. So you can use that phone to share information, to provide information, to do all sorts of things, to download tickets quickly at a cheaper price, whatever. And then, as I mentioned, smart pricing, we're really this pricing model of the same price that's set on the 1st of January, that's valid till the 31st of December, means that people are you're leaving guests behind who would come at a lower price. You're also leaving guests behind that will be happy to pay double and be able to come on the busiest day of the year and be guaranteed a quieter experience, because you're not filling it with 8,000 people, you're taking 4,000 people at twice the price. So smart pricing, again, at Africa Travel Market, I'll be talking about that. I think this might be my last slide. Oh, and then just quick, I came across this little report. They had a look at what was the Gen Z's top attractions that they searched for in the first 6 months of deep into the pandemic, last year. And theme parks, not a surprise, but I was quite surprised by zoos, museums, aquaria, botanical gardens, mountains, city landmarks, historical places, lakes, and temples. So, outdoor nature, quite a wide variety there. And that is it. We can go to a discussion. I see there's lots in the chat. I haven't had a chance to look.
Thank you.
Asado, thank you, Sid. Argentinian fries and asado. Yes, I had loads of those. And Jonathan.
Thank you so much, Sabina. I think just being able to leverage your experiences and knowledge is really cool. I think, again, these trends become overwhelming for us. And as Joe says, we often think, we've got to have all this integration in technology and it's all got to be there. Maybe it's getting people to your attraction. And once they enter, there's no more technology. Maybe that's the answer.
Absolutely. One of the most moving things I went to, quite a long time ago now, actually, it's 10 years ago, come to think of it. I was in New York and I went to, it's called the Glass House. It's this beautiful architectural museum. And you had to pay, I think it was $20 if you wanted to do the tour, which was only 20 people at a time, with your phone to take pictures, with your camera and phone. And it was $10 if you didn't take pictures, left your phone and camera behind. Of course, being a South African, that's a lot of money. So I took the $10 option. And it was a real lesson in how moving it was to, no one was taking photos. People really engaged with the site. It was so beautiful. I got quite tearful. It was an incredible, beautiful place, but it was a real lesson to me what a phone and a camera takes away, it doesn't always add,
Yeah, very, very important. Okay, Sabina, does anybody have any questions? I know we've gone a little bit over time, so I don't want to keep anybody too much longer. We've got things to do, I'm sure. But any questions?
Yeah, and Nico, I think for you were there and you've got quite a different view from me on some of these things. So tell me what struck you, what trends from Dubai, and I'm putting you on the spot here. You weren't planning to participate, but anything I said that didn't gel or...
No, I don't go to an expo to discover trends like you do. I go to an expo as a general visitor.
Yeah.
But what we have to, I think, be careful of is that we are not the generation Z, and we are not creating the experiences for us. We are creating the experiences for the new generation, which we need to really monitor and get to know, because we're I think it's important to keep monitoring those trends and make sure that we don't create experiences that might be interesting for our generation, but they look at it completely different.
It might be quite interesting. Thank you. I think it's a valid point. And Sadiqa, maybe we can make a note. Maybe one day we have a youth panel where we interview 10 youths and say, right, what do you want on a day out? Let's talk about it. It could be really interesting.
Very cool.
Thanks, Nico. It's a very valid point. You're right.
Awesome. Okay, so anybody else? Any questions or comments or additions? No? So just lastly, and just as we're wrapping up, I think most of you guys will know that we're starting off with what we call regional seminars or meetups or chapter meetings, where we want to actually have face-to-face gatherings or get-togethers. around the country. We've got a couple of them planned already. So I'm just going to flick through them. Sabina, just correct me if I'm wrong. Up in the Waterberg or the Waterberg and Limpopo is next week already, 7th of April. So if you're in that area, give them a shout. The on the 13th of April, Sabina, you're doing a benchmark study?
I'm sharing the IAPA, the AVIA attractions benchmark. Yeah.
Okay, that's on the 13th, and the 11th you've got your one for Curiositas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so that's my that's my consultancy, and I'll be talking on smart pricing, the past, present, and future trends of smart pricing.
That's a very cool one. So that's the 11th, is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then the 23rd of June, we got one confirmed up in Graskop in Mpumalanga. So if you're going to be in Mpumalanga around that time and you want to go and check it out, or you know someone that might be interested, please give them a shout. There'll obviously be comms on our different platforms from RVS. So please get involved, come down, let's have a chat or face-to-face chat, hopefully with a glass of wine. But yeah, final poll. I don't know.
Sorry, one thing to add that you missed out. At Africa Travel Market, there's my talk on Monday on smart pricing, and there's the AVIA benchmark study being presented on the Wednesday, followed by the AVIA social at the Cape Town, at the city sightseeing stand. Members and non-members are welcome. Let's connect again.
That's it. Thanks. Cool. I think, can you guys see the poll up on your screen? Just very quickly. If you can, if you'll just want to know if we'll see you at one of our regional meetups. Yes, maybe, no, let us know. It's cool. So just tick which one you would like to answer. I'm definitely going to go. There's got to be some free wine somewhere. Cool. I think that's it. So everyone, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. We're going to do this again next month, so please join us. Bring a couple of other friends in the attractions industry. Let's share some ideas, have a bit of fun, and get to know each other. Sabina, anything from you, lastly? Okay, thank you for your time. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye, Nico.
Thanks, bye.